Hi, Steve Stauning here with another short and sweet training lesson, this one on leadership and more specifically on leading teams. Now, today's session is really for general managers or anyone who manages multiple teams that have to interact with each other. For example, one team may be an operations team, the other team a sales team, and they sort of rely on each other to make sure that the product is ready and ready for sale. And a few things that both teams need is, one is teams need consistent direction. What do I mean by that? Well, this means we cannot change the rules, every time we think it makes sense. What we have to do is have some rules in place, and unless those rules become bad, or unless we have truly a better way to do it, we don't want to change those rules. See, we undermine our own credibility every time we change direction because we give the teams a sense that this too shall pass, right? When we don't give consistent direction and we're changing all the time, they think, well, okay, this is the flavor of the day, but we know it's just the flavor today. Tomorrow it's going to be something different. See, it'd be better to stick with a good plan. And I mean a good plan, not a great plan, but a good plan, than to constantly try to reinvent the wheel hoping to come up with a great plan. Because the truth of the matter is, none of these plans have been great, right? So we can start with a good plan and then we can make refinements from there that make sense. In fact, most of these refinements are going to come from input from people in the team. So let's decide on a direction and then let's basically burn the boats, right? And let's make sure that we continue in that direction. Also, by the way, teams need to be given the ball and they need to be allowed to run with it. See, I see this happen all the time. We tell teams, hey, it's your ball, you run with it, right? And then what we do is after they've eluded 11 tacklers and they're on the 2-yard line about to cross the goal line, we stop them, right? We slam them. We say you're wrong. We change their direction. We point them 98 yards the other way, and we simply can't do that. See, it would be better if we let our team make a few colossal failures than to prevent them from having colossal successes. See, that's what happens when we change direction all the time, when we stop people, we don't allow them to truly run with the ball, is that we prevent them from having colossal successes. Another way to look at it is, you know what, shoot me enough times and I'll become a little gun shy. Teams need to be allowed to keep their word to everyone. Do you understand what that means? When our team gives its word to someone, say it's an outside vendor, an internal customer, an external customer, really doesn't matter. We need to keep our word even when it costs us money. And we need to keep our team's word because we undermine their credibility whenever we go back on their word, right? Because their word is the company's word. Credibility and integrity, they don't come cheap, but they can go very cheaply. Teams need to be goal focused. Let's pick 2 to 3 goals tops, right? And let's allow them to weigh all of their decisions against these goals. Let's teach them something very, very simple, and that is things that take you towards your goals, those are good. Things that take you away from your goals, those are bad. Very simple. And now we can hold them accountable, right? And we can hold them accountable to the results. Now, I'm not against holding people accountable to the activities as well that drive the results, but you have to pick one. You either hold them accountable to the results or you hold them accountable to the activities. You can't hold them accountable to both. It's just not fair. As a business leader, you need to understand that not everybody can be focused on the big picture. That's your job. That's leadership's job. I don't want people on the individual teams trying to think about how what they do affects the entire organization. It's not productive, right? It just simply is not productive. Teams need to be allowed to be a little bit narrowly focused and really not necessarily care how downstream folks deal with their creations. As long as we've given them good goals, right, and as long as we align those goals with the company's goals, then everything should be fine. Now, this is not to say that they should be allowed to produce shoddy work. To the contrary, so long as they're reaching their goals, they shouldn't give a crap about what happens after that. They need to be a little bit selfish. They really do. That's going to be what's most productive for your organization. If the team's goals are misaligned, then those can be adjusted, right? But in order to perform at their best, all teams must stay in their lanes. All teams must work on what they're best at, right? And by the way, downstream teams should never be allowed to point fingers upstream, and vice versa. See, if leaders of these teams want to brainstorm about the next interaction and how to make that better, great. But playing the blame game is never productive for either team, and it's certainly not productive for your organization. So let's do a quick recap of this short and sweet training session. What do teams need? Teams need consistency. They need consistent leadership. They need consistent direction, right? If we need to change the rules for changing the rules' sake, we can't do that. But if we need to change the rules because we're going in the wrong direction, that's something completely different. Teams need to be given freedom, right? What they need is they need to be given the ball and allowed to run with it. They need to be allowed to make colossal failures because that's how you're going to get colossal successes. Teams need to be goal focused. Let's give them 2 to 3 goals. Let's keep them focused on those. They also need to be narrowly focused. In other words, teams need to be selfish. They need to worry about their goals. They can't worry about the goals upstream or downstream. And finally, teams need to be immune to the blame game, and that's your job as leaders, is to make sure that doesn't happen. It's very easy for people to point fingers upstream or downstream, and it's just not productive for your organization.